Hey y'all, welcome to Grace Filled Podcast, the very first episode. My name is Amelia Donaho, and I am so thrilled and so excited that y'all are here listening. It is going to be such a fun little time. If you had told me honestly, like a year ago, or even a few months ago, that I would be sitting here talking to a bunch of cameras and recording a podcast, I would have called you crazy. Honestly, it's just so funny how God works in our lives because, like I said, I did not imagine I'd be sitting here, but here I am. And I really think He's just been preparing me for this over a course of a few months. And I'll go into that a little bit deeper later. But first off, I just want to tell everybody the reason why I'm here, why I'm doing what I'm doing. If you're listening to the audio, then you obviously cannot see what I look like or what I'm wearing. But today I'm wearing just a little simple sweatshirt. I have on some shorts and then some little Nike socks, so nothing special at all. And there's a reason for that. You probably were not even thinking about what I'm wearing or why I'm wearing what I'm wearing. But there's a specific reason. And that is that I didn't want to come on here looking all dolled up and perfect with the best outfit. Because at first I thought, okay, I'm recording a podcast. It's going to be on YouTube. I got to make sure I'm looking phenomenal, right? But I decided to just go with something comfy. My mom actually asked me before I started recording, she said, okay, what are you going to wear? I'm like, a sweatshirt and shorts. I was kind of hesitant, but there's a reason. I'm getting there. And the reason is for this podcast, I want to create a very comfortable space. I know there's a sin that I still deal with. I'm still working on that, going through a heart transformation process. But when I first started dealing with it, it was very difficult because of all the guilt and the shame. I couldn't tell my mom, but finally I worked up the courage to do so. And I vividly remember just telling her, explaining, I think I was crying too, because we all know that feeling when we do something wrong. It's just this crushing weight of guilt and shame. And so finally I told her I'm crying. And I remember her telling me, it's okay. Not in the sense of it's okay that I'm committing the sin, but just comforting me for a reason. She said following after this, because I'm not saying that sin is okay. Sin is never okay because it's disobeying our God. But she said, it's okay. There are 8 billion people in the world, and you are not the only one. And I remember that vividly because it made me feel 10 times better. But now sitting here thinking back to that moment, it makes me realize we need a community of people where it is just comfortable, where we can share what we're thinking, how we're feeling. And that's why I'm in this just comfy outfit, because I'm not here to look perfect for a camera. I'm here to let the Holy Spirit work through me and speak to other people and share with other people what I've been through, what I'm going through, and hopefully have a community and build that community of people that can share what they're going through. And then we can all talk about it and figure out how to navigate through life, because that's one thing I know we can all agree on, or two things actually, is that we sin and that life is hard. Those are two things that I think everybody walking this earth can say. And so just like my mom said, there's 8 billion people in the world, and somebody's done what you've done. They've sinned how you've sinned. And that's the fact of the matter. It does not make it okay whatsoever, but it really does help you grow out of that. And like I said, go through that heart transformation. Because if I hadn't have told my mom what I was going through, what I was doing, I wouldn't have gotten any advice to help me through that. And that's the real reason for the podcast. I'm already planning so many more episodes, and I'm completely thrilled because I think it's going to be just something so beautiful. And so really just a quick little backstory of how I've gotten into this. I remember, it was last year actually, around August or September. I could have those dates completely wrong, but I think it was near that time. There was at my school, actually let's back up a sec. So in May, or maybe a little bit before May, there were 2 seniors at my high school, which I'm going to be a senior now, and this is when I was a sophomore. But these 2 girls started a club at my school called Daughters Growing in Grace. And this past year, I was a co-leader. This year, I'm a co-leader again. I'm so blessed, and I love that group of girls. But as a co-leader this last year, during that August, September months, I was asked to go to 3 different church services and just speak about daughters growing in grace. It was nothing special. I wasn't giving like a 30-minute sermon. But I remember being terrified because you'll learn this about me the more you listen to the podcast, but I am a big time perfectionist. And I'm also a people pleaser and I care what people think. I'm still trying to get out of that because I think back to the verse in the Bible where it says, are we trying to please man or are we trying to please God? That's something that's always in my head and written on my heart because I'm trying to get out of that, of pleasing people. But I'm pretty sure, like I said, I'm not alone. Somebody else is a people pleaser and a perfectionist. And so I was really worried going into this. What would people think? Would they want to hear what I have to say? I was only speaking for 2 minutes. That is it. Just 2 minutes. But I remember being so terrified to walk on that stage. But after I was finished with it, I had so much more confidence, not an egotistic kind of confidence, just a confidence from God saying, you can speak. I've given you this gift. I want you to use that. And I didn't really hear that directly from God after that moment, but I just had that sense of, okay, that wasn't that bad, you know? And then fast forward a little bit, I'm originally from Alabama, and pageants are a big thing there. So I did pageants when I was younger, and for some reason, which looking back now, it was obviously God leading me in this direction, but I went and did a pageant again for the first time in many years. I think that was February 11th, I did the pageant. So August, September, I went and talked at the church, and then February I had the pageant. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, God has prepared me to talk because I've had to speak on stage at the church, the sermons or the services. And then I didn't mention this, but I spoke at the Daughters Growing in Grace, one of the Bible studies. I was nervous about that, but I did it. I was very proud of just that moment, you know, feeling like, okay, I can speak once again, like I can do this. And so for the pageant, I had an interview portion. I also had to answer a question on stage. And so I was concerned about doing that and speaking eloquently. But like I said, God had prepared me beforehand. And so I felt comfortable going into that. I had a peace just washed over me, that peace that surpasses understanding from God. And then where the podcast came into this, I'm going to get back to those 3 little stories about me speaking. That'll come back later. But I did club volleyball. I think I started in 7th grade. I did quit around 10th grade or 9th grade because it was a lot for me. And I don't want to do that in college. I felt God calling me somewhere else. I'm here at the podcast, so maybe that was it. But I would have 30 minutes in the car to and from. So about an hour in the car, I think 3 or 4 times a week heading to practice. It was far away. And I'd go with my mom and we would have the best conversations, whether it was laughing and crying while laughing or just crying tears because of something that's going on, something that's happening. And those were probably the best conversations that I've had with my mom ever, because we were just in the car and what else to do besides talk. Sometimes we jam out some music, but normally it was just talking. And I didn't realize it then, but that was also God preparing me and saying, there is something that you need to share with other people. Like I said, I'm not going to be cocky or try to have some ego, but my mom would always tell me, she's like, Amelia, you have wisdom that I didn't even have when I was your age. And she would always say that, and I would think, okay, you're my mom. You have to say that kind of stuff. But I started to believe it when I started hearing God say that too, or teaching me like, okay, you need to share what you have learned with others. Because I don't have wisdom in every single aspect of life because I haven't been through every aspect of life. But I am a person that's been through some things and I want to share with others. And so that was just God slowly building over the years saying, okay, you can speak, you have this, you have that, I've gifted you this. And also I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm talking to a camera, even though I know other people are going to be listening to this and watching this. But it's just like, I think God has really prepared me for this moment and prepared my heart to share my story. And so I'm going to go into my testimony a little bit because I believe that's very important. That's why for the first episode of the podcast, I'm just explaining who I am, what I do, because I'm always a firm believer that before you ever speak life into anybody, before you ever I don't know, just share what you have learned. I think it's good to get to know a person that is teaching you. And so when I'm walking through my life lessons and teaching y'all what I've learned, I think it's best that you know who I am first. So my testimony a little bit, my name is Amelia Donaho. As I said before, I'm from Alabama, and my dad is a pastor. So I grew up as a pastor's kid. I remember from a young age, my mom's also an educator, so she would have summers off sometimes, when she was a teacher, actually. And then when she moved into more of the administration, jobs, I guess, she would have to work during the summer. So I was either sitting at my school or sitting at the church with my dad or my mom. And I remember I was always at the church constantly. And I'm very blessed. I would say the word I'd use to describe that, man, it's not coming to me. I can't remember it. It starts with a P, I think. Oh, privilege. It was a privilege. That's what I have to say. Because it was wonderful. There are so many people that can't even, in other countries, they can't even walk around with a Bible. Like they're not allowed to. And so I'm very blessed and fortunate to grow up in a community where I'm loved, where I have Christians surrounding me. But at the same time, it made this feeling of complacency. And what I mean by that is I started checking off boxes on a to-do list constantly. That's how I would go about my day or go about my week, my life. I would go to church. I'd be the perfect little pastor's kid that I could be. I'd always have the best dresses, the best hair. Felt like I had to act the role of a pastor's daughter. And I mentioned before, I'm a perfectionist, and so I think that's where that also came from. But it wasn't anybody from the church, from my parents. They weren't putting that pressure on me. It was me putting that pressure on myself because I thought I had to be this person and show this persona that other people expected from me, which was not true whatsoever. But over the years, it was more of just living my life with a religion, not knowing God on a deep level, not having a relationship. And I know that's a big thing now. Everybody's talking like Christianity is a relationship, not a religion. It's a relationship with somebody who knit me together in my mother's womb, which that baffles me. Sometimes I think, man, God spent 9 months creating me, making me who I am. And I think that's another reason I stepped into this podcast world too, is because at first I was scared to post on social media because of what people would think. But in the end, I learned, like I said before, am I trying to please people or am I trying to please God? And so I felt God call me into this, and that's why I'm here, because I want to share with other people, and I'm not afraid to do so now. But like I was saying with my testimony, it was just very difficult, trying to live this perfect life when in reality, Jesus was perfect. And I cannot be Jesus. I cannot be perfect at all. And so it was honestly just a waste of me trying to become somebody that I'm not and I will never be. And I think that's also a beautiful thing because it allows room for God's grace to come in and help us in those imperfect moments. Because truthfully, as much as I try to be perfect, I think it's a beautiful thing not being perfect, because it lets me become closer to God. When I fail or when He's bringing me through a dark time, I have somebody to cling on to. I have my hope. Jesus is my rock. And I know that God's going to guide me and teach me and love me in all these different ways possible. And it's a beautiful thing. But so I moved from Alabama to Florida, and I still had that complacency. I went to a new church, so now I felt another pressure of perfectionism to show other people that, okay, look at me, I'm good. And I think that was really a self-centered way to be, because like I said, it was just look at me, look at who I am, not who God was. But over the years, there's not an exact moment, because life is a roller coaster. You go through ups and downs, but I think through every single down that I was having, God was showing me who I'm meant to be, who He's called me to be as an individual, just living my life for Christ. And so I still struggle with perfectionism in some sense, but it's more to the place now. My full testimony is just about how I've walked in faith, not knowing where God's taking me, not knowing where He's leading me, and not trying to be perfect. And so if y'all take away one thing from today, it would just have to be that I am an imperfect person. 100%. I'm an imperfect girl, but I serve a perfect God. So I'm an imperfect girl just trying to serve a perfect God. And that's just the beauty of, I think, all of our stories. We have to take up our cross each and every day. And I'm going to do episodes in the future going deeper into all these topics I've talked about, because I've kind of been like, woo, everywhere. But there's just so much on my heart that I really want to share. And so that's what I'm looking forward to with this podcast. But if you are just looking for somebody to be your friend, be your sister, because I never had any siblings, I really just want to create this close-knit community of people where we trust each other. And if you're struggling with something, please, feel free to reach out on Instagram, DM me. My Instagram, I think, is going to be in the description below. I'm not really a YouTuber, so still figuring that one out. But I'll probably put that there. Or it's just Amelia Donaho if you want to go send me a DM. And if you have any questions, just let me know, because that's just my whole mission. I think, truthfully, if you are a Christian and you're not sharing with others, Jesus said to his disciples, go out and make disciples of all nations. And if you are saved by Jesus and you don't go and share to other people, then I think you're missing out on a true, beautiful, and wonderful thing about our life. I always use this analogy in a lot of aspects, but especially this one. If you have a cup of water, or just an empty cup actually, and you start pouring the water in, at some point or another, the water's going to overflow. That's bound to happen, and it's going to pour out all over your counter or wherever you're sitting. And if you think about that in relation to just our life, if you love Jesus and you are surrounding yourself with Christ, for me, like I said, my whole life is about walking through faith. So that looks like not turning on ungodly music. It looks like turning on godly music when I'm in the car, or making sure I read my Bible when I wake up in the morning, which I'm a victim of that. I didn't wake up and read my Bible this morning. That's another reason. It's like, you're not alone. We're going to figure that out together. We got this as the community. That's what I really want to create. But with that cup analogy, if you're surrounding yourself with Jesus and God, and you have all that love that he's given you, because God is love. And so if you're following him, you're going to have love and you're going to be filled up. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And I want everybody to know this, but you're going to have an outpour like that cup. And so that outpour needs to make sure it's splashing on the people around you. When you are so full of Jesus, you got to make sure that you're surrounding others, showing them love, being with them. And that's why I'm here. I'm not sure where this is going to take me, but that's the beauty about faith. That's the beauty about God. And that's the beauty about the journey of life. We don't know where we're going, but we do know who we serve. And so I know my path is prepared. For I know the plans for you. I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you a hope in a future. I pray that over everybody's lives today. And I thank you so much for just watching and giving this podcast a little chance. It's going to be an exciting journey, like I said, and I'm thrilled. I'm beyond excited. It's amazing what God is doing in my life and in others. So please, like I said, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, DM me. I just want to meet and help and talk to as many people as possible. So thank you all so much. I hope you have a very blessed Wednesday today, and I'll see you really soon. Bye.